Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options in Play video update. So, first Friday of 2019. You know what that means, right? Options in Play Fridays or earnings on the radar Fridays. So, the last couple weeks, really quiet. Obviously, last week was a holiday week. And there was not one single name scheduled. This week started off slow. Uh, Even after people came back following New Year's, still pretty slow. Next week, it'll start to pick up more, right? But in reality, things really won't get fired up until like the following week. So next week is going to be really more about the JP Morgan Health Conference, which gets going Monday, and then we really should start to see just a bunch of retail sales because that's right around the time the companies start to give preliminary guidance. However, like the holiday season went, so that'll be the main focus. But there are some interesting names, so let's jump into it here. So Monday, that is the 7th. Monday the 7th. There is not really anything of interest. It's like most Mondays, uh, really nothing to watch in my opinion, either before the open or after the close. So Tuesday, probably like the first interesting name, and I say that with with a grain of salt here. So it's Helen of Troy. If you're not familiar with it, it's a consumer beauty name, more of like a consumer staple. So it's not like an Ulta. It's more of like a staple, whereas it's like hair dryers and things of that nature. But in terms of staples, this actually could be pretty volatile. It tend to trade a little bit more volatile than the sector. Um, it's pricing in it's pricing in about 11 points, but it's moved closer to 13 on average the last 2 quarters. So you see here, you got a big jump in July, and then you had a pretty big reversal in October. So you average it out about 13, pricing in 11. It's moved about 13 the last 2 quarters, so there could be some room there. Uh, for me though, this is going to be probably a more of like a wait and see because the options on this one are pretty thinly traded, and liquidity is not great. And when you're trying to get in and out with some size, it really could be an issue. Don't want to pay a massive spread on if you're looking to risk anywhere from like $1 to $2, you don't want to be paying like a 50 to 75 cent spread, right? So unfortunately, as much as I think this one could be worth it and may move, options at the moment are you know kind of keeping me on the sideline. But I'll definitely keep an eye on it, and if things tighten up, then maybe I'll pass along a trade idea on that. Okay, not much doing Tuesday after the close. Wednesday morning, though, we got a couple interesting names. So Acuity, AYI, Constellation, STZ, and Greenbrier. Finally, GBX. Right. So if you watch the my last earnings on the radar video, which was a couple weeks ago, I talked about Greenbrier, and they were tentatively scheduled for this week, but they finally confirmed, and it's actually next Wednesday morning. So pretty much the same setup as when I talked about it last. Stock has been beaten up, sitting near low, heavily shorted. Uh, Honestly, I'm thinking Trinity could be a decent sympathy play. So let's throw some Trinity here. So you can see stocks are pretty closely correlated, right? These are real car makers, pretty closely correlated. And what I like about Trinity is that GBX is pricing in about 4 points, but Trinity, which has weeklies, which is also another reason I like it, it's only pricing about $1.25. So overall, I think it's an interesting setup, but might go with Trinity on that one as a sympathy play as opposed to just trading Greenbrier itself. All right. AYI. So I played AYI pretty consistently the past couple of years, and what I like about it is that it moves consistently, right? So January options are pricing about 13 points for AYI, but as you can see right here, and right here, is that the last 2 quarters it's moved about 22 to 23 points on average. Um, so options seem to be really underpriced going into this quarter. It's hovering near the yearly low. Scroll out a little bit. You can see, so it's hovering right around its yearly low down here, which also pretty big support. I'm thinking, this could be a pretty good straddle candidate. You know, interesting technical levels. Right around support is about, let's say it's about 13, 14 points off the low. It's got some room above. It's priced in at 13, but it's moved 22 to 23. So you're thinking a volatility strategy, right? Maybe like a strangle or a straddle in that one. All right, Constellation, market cap wise, definitely the biggest name. Um, I mean, look at this. Just been absolutely rocked, right? It's down about 30%. So this is when it last reported, and it's down about 30% since. Um, Options on Constellation about 10.5 points, and similar to AYI, I think that might be underpriced. It's moved about 16 points on average the last 2 quarters. So what you can see is here, right? Here and here. So this was when they made the deal with Canopy Growth (CGC). So it's moved about 16 points on average, pricing in about 10.5. What I also like is that it broke a long term trend. So if I go back a little bit further, you see it broke this really aggressive long term trend, right? Uh, which typically leads to expanding volatility, right? Kind of like what I talked about with Nvidia way back when it reported. Um, Pretty tight consolidation, right? Gotten absolutely rocked in a relatively tight consolidation, just above its low. So, um, you know, it's already had a big drop. Volatility should be expanding. Has a pretty tight consolidation to work out of. So I kind of like it. Same thing. Straddle candidate. Something. Something targeting a move bigger than the 10.5 pricing in. Maybe though, staggering the expiration, so longer on the upside. Thinking that if it's solid, maybe it helps it build momentum for a larger rebound. So maybe stagger expiration for something longer dated on the call side. All right, Wednesday after the close, the name to watch is Bed Bath & Beyond. So last quarter may have been the kitchen sink. I mean, if not, I mean, you gotta worry about this company. So, I mean, you can see like this is the weekly performance of Bed Bath & Beyond. Last quarter was terrible, and really it hasn't had a bid to it since, right? Just steady selling since that quarter back in end of September. Uh, the straddle's priced in at about $1.75, so which really not bad. I mean, it's had some moves 3 to 4 points recently. The problem is the stock down around 10, 11. I think the downside probably more limited here. Um, so actually thinking maybe a speculative bullish bet is in order. Right? Logic behind that being bad performance, ugly numbers. Maybe expectations are finally low enough where you could see a relief rally if they're not a complete disaster. Um, I do think though that if you look at a bullish bet, it would have to be something closer to money, just because you might not get that huge of a pop. So it would have to be some sort of spread or maybe like a fly, something to lower risk and get the position closer to the money. Thursday before the open, actually nothing scheduled, and after the close, you only have one name. So this is Thursday, and that's Synex. Um, this is a name. Occasionally, it has a big move, but really, the last time it did was about 3 quarters ago. So, um, it's been less of a mover recently, which is not a great sign. What I do like is that the stock has been consolidating for the last few months, right? So pretty tight consolidation, a pretty tight couple months consolidation right around the year's low. So that's positive. What's negative though is that options are priced in about 10 points. So I'm just not confident that there's a lot of room above or below that. Uh, you know, I, it's in the past seen moves that have exceeded that, but again, recently it hasn't. So, um, kind of leaning towards maybe leaving this one alone, but we'll see as the week goes on. Maybe if things are improving, maybe if the volatility is expanding in the market, or maybe if I see some unusual option activity on this, maybe I'll hop on board. So keep an eye out for that one. Okay, that was Thursday after the close. Friday before the bell, Cannabis play Aphria. So this one, I don't know if you've been following it, but it's been in the news recently. There's been some M&A chatter on it. Uh, to be honest, though, these cannabis stocks really aren't earning stories because they're just so early in their lifeline stages that revenues. Some of them don't have revenues. The ones that do, they're pretty insignificant. Uh, so as much as I think that this may move, it's not really an earnings story. So I'm probably just going to leave that one alone. And that's it. So that's the earnings picture for next week. But again, like I said, um, earnings probably going to take a backseat to the JP Morgan conference and retail sales. So even though there's not a ton of names scheduled, there should be plenty going on. Cool. So hope you guys are stopping by on Monday night for the coaching session. Looking forward to catching up with you. A lot happened since we last met, so plenty to talk about. Um, as always, I'd love to hear from you. So questions or comments, if you want to leave them in the video or if you want to send them along an email, I'll check those out. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.